Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Every now and again, a case comes across my desk that just makes my blood boil. One of the worst things I ever had to see as a respiratory therapist was child abuse. And I saw some children that were really pretty horribly abused, several of whom died as a result of that abuse. And it's just not something you can get your head around, understanding how that happens. I mean, every parent loses their temper, but generally speaking, when you're, beating on a 6-month-old infant, you're not a rational actor. And this case doesn't involve babies, but it does involve children. In re Tracy Green from the Michigan Supreme Court is actually a judicial discipline case. And it involves a judge who made efforts to conceal child abuse. And even though she is a mandatory reporter, she didn't report the child abuse. She knew the child abuse was going on. She had seen the bruises. And not only did she do that, but at least arguably, she lied in the Judicial Commission where the case was decided. There were several things going on in this case. First of all, there was the child abuse, the fact that she put makeup over the bruises to conceal them, the fact that she continued to refer to it as a handprint instead of a bruise, the fact that she had told people that she wasn't aware that her grandchildren were being abused, when the grandchildren testified that both of them had told her that they were being abused, and that she had seen the marks on their bodies and had commented on them, apparently. At any rate, the opinion is pretty clear that she did not report this and took steps to cover it up, which you would not expect a judge to do. And as a result of that, a judicial complaint was filed. This is the result of that complaint. And let's go through the opinion now. This is in re Green. So we have a Third Circuit Court judge, Tracy Green. A complaint against her alleged that she covered up evidence of child abuse, that was count 1, and that she made false statements about her knowledge of the abuse, that was count 2. Respondent admitted that she was aware that her son had slapped one of her grandsons across the face, and she further admitted that she covered the resultant handprint with makeup, claiming that she had done so after her other grandson had teased about the handprint. She denied the handprint was a bruise. Both grandsons testified the respondent was aware of multiple incidents in which their father's physical abuse left marks on them, and further testified that no teasing had occurred with regard to the handprint. Respondent testified at a juvenile court hearing as a witness for her son. She denied she had ever seen bruises on her grandson's bodies, but admitted to seeing the handprint on JD's face. Respondent also denied that any of her grandchildren had ever told her they had been abused. So they conducted disciplinary proceedings virtually. The disciplinary counsel sought leave to amend the complaint to add a knowingly false statement claim in the formal complaint, meaning she lied to disciplinary counsel. So the Judicial Commission accepted the special master's findings of fact and conclusions of law with regard to violations of count 1 and 2. The JTC unanimously accepted and adopted the master's findings of fact with regard to counts 1 and 2. They were troubled by the allegations in count 3, but they concluded that the disciplinary counsel didn't satisfy its burden. And then when it came down to the factors, they said that they concluded the totality of the factors weighed in support of respondent's removal from office, which would have been the right answer. In a per curiam opinion signed by Chief Justice Clement and Judges Bernstein, Kavanaugh, Welch, and Bolden, remember those names, Michigan voters, the JTC proved by a preponderance of the evidence that the respondent knowingly covered up evidence of child abuse, violated the canons of judicial ethics and the rules of disciplinary conduct for Michigan's bar, and the Judicial Commission sustained its burden of proving the respondent knowingly made false statements about evidence of child abuse in her answer to the Joint Commission's request for comment. A 6-month suspension without pay, along with a public censure, was imposed after consideration of the JTC's recommendation, the Brown factors, and similar and dissimilar judicial sanctions that have previously been imposed. This is, in fact, a slap on the wrist. She doesn't get paid for 6 months, but she gets to go back and continue being a judge, sitting in judgment of other people doing exactly the kinds of things that she did. Who signed the per curiam opinions certainly gave the court a black eye. Not everybody went along. Justice Bernstein wrote separately to express his continuing concern about the use of video conferencing. In other words, he was okay with this, but he just thought that it should have been conducted in a different technical manner. Justice Zara concurred and dissented in part and agreed with the majority that she committed misconduct and agreed with the imposition of a sanction, but he also agreed with additional findings of misconduct should have been considered, and he concurred in Justice Viviano's partial concurrence and dissent. Justice Viviano concurred in part and dissented in part. He agreed with regard to the first 2 counts, but he said, look, to explain why he did not find in regard to count 2 that respondent made intentionally false statements under oath at a public hearing, he said a respondent judge is entitled to notice of charges and a reasonable opportunity to respond to them. This is a judge in search of an explanation for inexplicable conduct. There is absolutely no way that judge didn't know she lied, and there's also no way for her to have defended the lie when it was in black and white. So this is just a judge saying, but I didn't know the gun was loaded. Well, as you can see, all I did was go through the syllabus because I was afraid that if I actually read this particular case, I might be so upset I would not be able to get through it. What you have here is a bunch of judges who are supposed to sit in judgment of a fellow judge and do the right thing, and they did not do the right thing. Instead, they made excuses. They talked about how maybe things could have been done better by the disciplinary council, and just generally ignored in a substantial way the wrongdoing that went on here. You have a judge who effectively, if the opinion is to be believed, at least arguably committed perjury. Perjury is a pretty serious thing, particularly for a judge. This is a judge who is probably going to deal with child abuse cases. This is a judge who is probably going to deal with people hiding evidence. This is a judge who may at some point in time have to deal with other issues that she herself is guilty of in this case. We tend to put judges on a bit of a pedestal. They are the people that we look up to. They are the people who are the examples in the legal profession. They have achieved a higher rank than your basic lawyer, and they are held to higher standards, or at least they are supposed to be held to higher standards. Instead, what we have here is a Michigan Supreme Court saying, well, there are a lot of ways that we could explain this, but basically what it boils down to is we don't think she ought to suffer more than 6 months without her paycheck. I'm sorry, but if you are going to do this kind of thing, if you're going to cover up evidence of what amounts to a crime, child abuse is a crime. If you are going to do that, there is no way that you should sit in judgment of other people who might be charged with the same crime. Either you will be biased toward them or biased against them, and you will not be able to put aside your own interaction with the law. In this case, it is unconscionable to allow this judge to remain on the bench in Michigan. Now, voters have a way of dealing with that. I believe Michigan's judges are elected, and even if they're not elected, they're retained. And I would urge anybody in Michigan who is affected by this, and only people in Michigan are affected, really, I would urge them to remove these judges from the Supreme Court, the ones who did not dissent in this case. I'm just aghast that this case has gone to this point. So that's what I have for you today. Again, I'm just amazed that they would take this approach. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, all the stuff we ask you to do. Today, if you have the opportunity, do something nice for a child. If you have children or grandchildren, do something nice for them. Children are our most valuable and often our most underappreciated asset. They are the future that we wish to see. And if we wish to see them, we need to cherish them, we need to protect them, and we need to stand up for them when it counts. Are you listening, Michigan's Supreme Court? I would certainly hope so. Thank you so much for watching. Have a terrific day, and catch me down here at the beach next time. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.